What does it really take to help students succeed? What barriers keep them from graduating? And how are today's higher ed leaders rethinking the path forward? On the Outcomes podcast, listeners hear strategies behind enrollment, innovations driving student success, and lessons learned from campuses across the country. While the show celebrates the wins, it also explores what's next, shifting demographics, emerging technologies, and bold ideas reshaping education at scale. Hosted by James Dressing, the Outcomes podcast uncovers the future of student outcomes, one conversation at a time.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Outcomes podcast. I am very excited to be joined by Kittie Pain. Kittie, welcome. It's great to have you on.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
So I'd love to start by just giving a little bit of an overview of your background. What are you up to today? What is your role and what are you focused on?
I'm up to a lot today. So I currently serve as the Director of Graduate Enrollment at Kutztown University of Pennsylvania. So it is part of the Pennsylvania State System of Education. And prior to here, I served as the Director of Graduate Enrollment at a small liberal arts institution in Maryland and have kind of followed that path. So I was in adult and degree completion at a small private in Philadelphia. And before that, I was starting my roots as an administrative assistant in graduate school at a small private, again, right? I have a trend in New Jersey. That all kind of stacked to today, having this kind of all-encompassing view of what a graduate student needs to make that decision to walk through the door, and then how they're going to be successful in their program, and then how we can see them across the stage when they're done.
That's a great overview, and I think one of the things that you've mentioned when we've talked previously is just how much the landscape has changed on the graduate and adult learner side. I mean, you've seen everything from the Great Recession in 2008 to advent of online master's degrees in kind of the early 2010s. We've dealt with COVID and a massive acceleration into online and alternate different learning options for students. And now having to navigate, international student changes, Grad Plus loan changes. You've seen a lot change here. What stands out to you the most about how graduation education has changed over time?
I think what stands out the most, that's a really good question, because it has all ebbed and flowed. I think what stands out the most is how much colleges and universities have had to actually become flexible. They say that they've been flexible in the past, but now we really are. I think that it's becoming true to the word and the meaning. So flexibility long ago would be like, we have evening classes, but now it's evening or self-paced whenever you can log on. That class might be 8 weeks. This one might be a full 16. It might be hybrid. It might be fully online. It might be face-to-face. Like there really are options. And students can kind of make it a la carte sometimes within their own program. So it's not the program is exclusively one direction or another. And then I think that just the change, we might talk about this at another point, but the change in demographics. Now, what we considered traditional programs, which would have been, full-time, face-to-face programs, are now seen as non-traditional programs with anybody coming in. And it might be a person who's a career changer or just fulfilling a lifelong goal, or, needing this because they just came out of college and they need this next credential. So I think that the classroom demographic is also shifting.
Yeah, I think along with that, I think what you all doing at Kutztown is very amazing on trying to meet students where they are and what they're needing. I mean, what you've talked about previously is stackable credentials and trying to get something built that, to your point, is truly flexible and truly tries to meet a student where they are. How have you all tackled that? What's your approach there?
Started with our MBA, to be honest, and that was post-COVID, right? Let's talk about booms and busts. And that stackable model came about. We're not the first to come up with it, but we really decided we needed to lean into it based upon where we were and our surrounding competition. And we introduced it as earning your certificates as you're going through the full program. And so that's where that stackable, one certificate on top of another, came in. And we were able to also leverage certificates in another college within our university so that there's a little bit of crossover as well. It's meeting market standards. It gives that person that quick credential earn on their resume before they are going on to something. It might be proof in the job market that you can do this skill before you're going through that completion. And they're walking away with three things from us. So, like, that's also pretty cool. But we've also been able to roll that out into other programs since introducing it with MBA. And now, as we approach any new changes or new markets with programs, that's exactly the approach that we're taking. How can we start stacking certificates so people are earning as they're going?
I think one of the things that I'm curious about with that is I've seen a lot of really the OPMs try to move into the stackable credential market. And largely from what I've seen, it's really been a struggle. And I think folks have had a very difficult time helping students understand how they operate, what is the benefit to them. How have you handled the student communication side? Like, what has been unique that has allowed you to be successful here?
That's a great question. I think that it's the human touch.
Hmm.
Um, our, Immediately, we put students in touch with either the program director themselves or somebody like me or somebody in my office to talk through the meaning of it all, but also let them know, like, if you don't want to earn each certificate as you're going, that's okay too. It's built this way for your benefit. Our model is more, we're here for you to help you decide what you need, and we're not going to force you into something that doesn't fit what you need. But also, we try to directly show them the benefit of, if you're going for just a quick promotion internally, or you don't have a job yet and you want to end up getting the MBA, here's something quick we can apply to it. So I think it's kind of taking that student-centric approach to it all, and seeing it through the lens of what will work for them, but then we can make it individualized as well.
It's definitely a different take than I've seen previously. I think a lot of it has been tried to tackle in mass communication on, hey, we're going to send you an email that explains what a stackable is, but then the support falls off behind it. So that's interesting advice. And make it much more personal, make it much more human-centered, try to help a student understand it more one-on-one than just kind of the mass outreach side. And I want to go back to one concept. So EDU, like every other vertical, has boom and bust cycles. You are going to go through times that are very positive. You're going to have times that are challenging, and you have to plan for both. And I think one of the things that you've done extremely well in your career is having a plan before that cycle happens. How do you do that? Walk us through kind of some examples. Like, how did you tackle the last 5 years, for example, and all the different shifts in student behavior?
Okay. And it's funny because I feel like I have experience, and then setting on the stage changes, right? So your stage direction changes and you say, wait, I have done this, but maybe I did it differently. In the past 5 years, I arrived here in the past 5 years. So it was also an interesting transition to like a reopen. And then what will that look like? And a lot of it was, okay, now that we are approved for online for a lot of our programs, which we weren't pre-COVID. Not all of our programs are online programs, but we have the ability to deliver it. But what does that mean today? That's changed. So how do we work with the faculty to get them trained and ready to deliver a really high quality online? Sorry, I got stumbled there. And then it's also looking at the what can we do next? So we really lean into market research. No business model goes without that support, because we might wake up and have a great dream, but if the reality of it is that the support isn't there around the surrounding region, then we can't do it. It's not sustainable. But we also then meet with the industries around here. What do you need? How does that look? Even if one company says, I'm looking for this, that's great, but we need like 8 in order to get something off the ground, right? Because we can't drive it by one. So yeah, we do a lot of listening, but then a lot of investigating. And like I said, market research has been huge. There is no new normal. I think you've probably heard that from everybody on my side. And so the have to also do things at a quicker pace. I think that there is no longer like, hey, let's take a 4-year plan and seeing what's going to happen now, because in 4 years, you might not have graduate programs. Instead, it's, hey, in 4 months, what can we do? And it might just be adapting what you already have. Like I said, back to if I have online classes, how well prepared are my faculty to teach in those online classes?
Yeah, I've heard very similar from both NYU and Colorado School of Mines. It's trying to figure out how do you create shorter formats as well, kind of help respond with A, how fast employment changes are trending. Like all of the tech changes are hard to stay on top of. And B, folks are interested in shorter and shorter things. I mean, for a multitude of reasons. Like A, it's cheaper to not go to school for 4 years if you can do it in 1 year. And B, I think trying to, your point, get more connected to employer outcomes quickly, rather than just solely the more, learning for educational sake standpoint. And I'm curious, when you think about market research, I mean, I assume a lot of the goal is to try to find programs that you're not going to put a ton of effort into and then you launch them and they just don't enroll students. Like, how do you approach that process and making sure that what you're selecting really does fit the market need?
A lot of factors go into that. Sometimes it's organic. Somebody within the institution has raised their hand to say, you know what, we could bridge, we could introduce, we already have the faculty in place, there's somebody qualified that could help discover and bring this forward. Another time, it's really looking at what is going on and meeting the needs. If there's a hole in the market, we happen to be located in a pretty busy corridor as far as colleges and universities go where we are. And so, we also want to make sure that we're not introducing the same exact program that somebody else has already been doing for 40 years. How are we going to break into that? But looking at the market research talks about the viability. What is the job market? What would that outcome look like? What is the earning potential with that additional degree? And then we would have to evaluate how we're going to deliver it. It faculty contracts, and if we don't have the bandwidth here, what does that look like introducing something brand new with new faculty? So all of those cost structures go into play. And at a time when schools don't have a lot of cost structure, we are usually looking at how can we partner, or how can we how can we go back to what if we introduce that one certificate that is not as much of a heavy lift as a full degree program, but could work into another full degree program.
That sounds like a smart approach. And I've got two final questions for you. Number one, speaking of folks who are interested in having a career in the higher ed space, any advice for folks starting out in enrollment or grad programs? Like, how should they think about the market today?
Well, first of all, working on the grad side is just awesome. I say that with tongue in cheek, but I'm completely genuine. Our students know what they want. They're coming to you with a point. So to break into this side of the market is, I think, really rewarding and fulfilling. People should know is that adults are serious and they mean business. So if you're going to be on this side, you need to be in line with what they mean. They have done their homework. More than likely, they've been a stealth shopper, which we know is the person that goes underneath the radar, and they're popping into your application flow without your knowledge, and that's fine. Pick them up where they are. Don't let them go. They just want to get this done, so talk them through the reality of how to get it done. And be honest. If it's something that is going to take them 6 years, talk to them about what 6 years is going to look like. If it's something that's going to take them 2 years, you're fine, and the third year you have this intensive, what does that look like? Make it realistic for them. They have to plan their life. So for anybody coming into this side, also network. Just build your network, because we have a really good support system.
I find that people in the higher ed space are just very kind and willing to speak as well. So I agree with that network advice fully. And one final question for you. So for the higher ed leaders in the space who are trying to navigate all the changes, particularly on the grad side, what advice do you have for them?
Be human. You are in a human industry. Continue to be human. support the students. And that can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes it's just showing up for them in different ways. It could be inside the classroom or outside the classroom, but make sure you hear them and what their needs are. Don't just do a blanket kind of, I'm at a university and this is the standard, because it doesn't hold true all the time. And also give them a little grace. There are things that they're juggling. And so let's give them a little bit of opportunity to, sidestep sometimes, because that's life. And that's, again, going back to being human.
I think that's great advice. I mean, particularly when everyone's trying to automate everything from an outreach standpoint, and it's all kind of becoming very similar. I agree on the human touch is the thing that matters most. Kittie, I appreciate you joining on today. We really appreciate your time, and thanks for joining this episode of the Outcomes Podcast.
Sure, my pleasure.
All right, thanks, Kittie.